Geechee. Anytime, this your time of area. You have live it out. Okay, one breather in like a this. Four, and a half a go from. Going in the field for do like a this job. For going to the house for do like a this job. But make sure to store everything in the blow. To make sure to get your rain in or the clay. Don't drum on everything what it did. And things like that. He was say, oh, you good playtime between the seasons. And they got 4. We got 5. One where we have to stay alive. Hurricane season. And that's your time of year. People not stand tall. That this year, easier thing for do. But Hunter got these your dummy box with things that come true. I tell Hunter, this year coming, it coming. What you want to do? Do something. But then, the people who ain't been there like a week, they don't know. But the true land, they understand. But they got to get you stand. They always say, great God, if it's coming, what y'all going to do? Why y'all going to leave? We said, where we going? They said, well, what Hunter children do in the storm come? We said, we stay. And we pray. So right now, may I ask all of Hunter children, but take a moment of silence, for dissipate all the hurricane, not just the one with there in the Atlantic, but the one with there in the Pacific. That we join we spirits together and back off the storm. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Many people, what are new to this your life? What have been 400 years? Like the Igbo, Mandinka, Malinke, Yoruba, Gullah, Geechee, Mendi, Temi, Ifi, Ibibio, and why have been there like 1,000 years? Like we other ancestors that Kusabo and the Yamasi and the Adisto and the Cree. They can't stand that. Tall. They said, well, what the men said, I'm going to stay and pray. Oh, great God, no. said, but you know, when God talking, you can't run. No matter what under the day, you'll get him anyway. So some people say, but we going west. Someone said, I come there too. They said, well, we going north. He said, well, I going northwest. So then what you could do? We do the same thing we ancestors do. Apparently people downstairs and told just like when the people been the kind that called missionary. So then downstairs we do correctly too so. So they will make up so that everybody started talking like this. And it became homogenized. And that is the exact same methodology being used even with the earth itself. If we don't continue to plant the cultural seeds that God planted in each one of us distinctly, we will not harvest anything other than a homogenized world. If you're talking about GMO, we have genetically modified organisms that are human beings. Because all that they do is watch what somebody else sent them on a Twitter feed or a Facebook message, and then they try to emulate that. And so their whole DNA is being shifted along with whatever the current trend is. Whatever the current hashtag is, that's where they head. So if they say run, they start running before they say from what? And to where? And what are we running for? What is the purpose that you're here for? What seed did you bring in the person of your being to plant in the very souls of others on this soil in the world? I wrote a book about my cultural community, the Gullah Geechee Nation, which, as I said to you, but some of y'all look like y'all didn't understand when I'm in a crack the teeth like this, anything like that. But I think y'all understand this language, right? This works? No? ¿Qué pasa? Come on, stop. Okay. All right, so this works. You understand this one. Okay, now it works. So here it is that in the Gullah Geechee Nation, which goes from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida, I literally live on an island in the Atlantic Ocean called St. Helena Island. I got here last night from there before the people who are in the panic that are the million that are on the highway started to drive out. But as I got here, I thought that this would be a great place because people are going to be calm here. So while I'm here, we're going to be talking about what we can plant together. But instead, even when I ask people while we're sitting there, don't say, I'm good. Don't say that. They continue to try to talk to me about something else. That to me, you'll have what you say. So you don't feed that which you don't want to water and to grow. So my people are at peace on St. Helena Island. My people are at peace because they're already prepared. We've lived over 400 years on the sea islands through our traditions and not the total assimilation into Western traditions. So therefore, we don't allow the Western world to plant seeds in our souls by their panic and their worry about everything. We watch, wait, pray, and then adjust. And this environmental world now, they continue to call us resilient people that are a prime example of adaptation. So I'm asked to come to all kinds of meetings. When I leave here, I'm going to the Global Climate Action Summit, an hour away from here, in order to talk to people about rising up together to change the climate. But I'm not just talking about climate science. I'm talking about the climate of the actual part of the universe that makes you you. So if you're prone to panic, I would ask you to do what I just said we do between the little break we have in the season and just breathe. And when you take in a deep breath, it's hard to have your mind race and take in a deep breath and breathe it out slow all at the same time. it becomes a mutually exclusive process. You're either panicking or you're breathing. I think the breathing one is the better part. We even got two things that help us do it. Lungs. But if we continue to pollute the world, our lungs won't even function properly, and they'll remain in a state of panic. And the more that we watch what someone else tells us to panic about, the more that we tweet it, the more that we read it, the more that we talk to somebody else about it, we see that. Where when you read it, you should say, peace, be still. Peace, be still. Calm that moment. Calm that storm. Settle things. So people come to the Gullah Geechee Nation and think that they're talking to 40 and 50-year-old individuals, and those people are over 100 years old. Because they don't look their age. Because they like to laugh. They like peace. They don't want, like my mom would say, get that noise out my ears. Don't bring a bunch of noise and aggravation into our space. So if there's not a positive thing you want to plant, we don't need those seeds. How many people here actually grow anything? So all of you at some point have either had a seed or seedling that your hands have touched. If it was a rotten seed, would you plant it? Why not? There's a V word, right? It wouldn't be viable. So if it's not viable physically, it sure enough ain't viable spiritually. So we need to take the same approach in life. If the words that I'm approaching you with seem like those that will lull to panic, if I'm not just walking up to say, I have positive energy for you. I'm sending out positive energy for you. I'm praying for you. I'm uplifting you. Let's don't say it at all. You can think it because you can keep it in your spirit. It won't infect or affect the rest of us. But if you want to bring it out, bring something that can enhance us all. Where I am in the Gullah Geechee Nation, where I say the elders say don't need to bring that noise or thing like that, they usually be big daddy, mama, and working around the house with the apron. Now we don't hardly use these kind of apron, y'all. I had this thing here to sit around for years. Now I think one of these other children type people out here, gardeners, must have given me this shit. We don't garden where I'm from, we farm. Because we plant anywhere from 1 to 10 acres of property. Gullah Geechees have been on the Sea Island since the 1600s. The transatlantic slave trade is what brought my ancestors, the Igbo, Mandinka, Malinke, Yoruba, Gullah, Geechee, Mendi, Temni, Fifi, Bibio people to North America. Many of them then engaged in, lived with, married the Kusabo Yemisi Disto the Cree. So I have bloodlines of North America and Africa from both sides of my family. So when I say I'm indigenous to the land and I know what it is to touch the souls in the soil, I feel my ancestors whenever I'm out there, literally farming. So when people say things to us like, oh, do you plant a garden? My mother and other people on the island, we usually look at each other and then we just smile. We say, yeah, that's what y'all call it. Because we don't want to tell these people whose area they plant is the size of this, that our area we plant is the size of this. And that we're still planting the same land that our ancestors were enslaved to plant cotton, rice, and indigo on. And I'm the only person who's written a book from the perspective of my ancestors about what they call the cash crops of the Sea Islands and the knowledge that was extracted from the motherland and exploited in North America to make others rich, while they call the people who had the knowledge black gold. Now you tell me if you've ever heard the word gold and you don't think about riches. But yet, there was a whole propaganda campaign to try to make us believe we had no value while we planted value in the very soil that created what is now called a cultural landscape from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. For all of you who are incessantly on your phone even up to this moment, if you're watching the weather reports and where they're showing you the cone of uncertainty, it encompasses a great deal of the Gullah Geechee Nation, excluding the Georgia and Florida portions, but it is going up into northernmost point and out and away from the Gullah Geechee Nation, actually, because once you hit Cape Fear, where they're scared right now for real, that exits our area, our region. And as you do, the cultures change. Their cash crops in North Kakalaki, as we call it, is usually tobacco. Where, I don't know nobody eat tobacco, they chew it, but they don't eat it. And I don't know too many people who had a good, viable, really strong, healthy life who did it. But when we talk about Carolina gold rice, out of the 3 cash crops and the rest of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and which fueled it, which built the very foundation and the infrastructure for what became the United States of America, those cash crops, the Carolina gold, was named what it was named for the same reason we would call black gold, because someone else could exploit it for profit. So GMO seeds are still building on that foundation of exploiting the earth and the people. Because in this day and age, we think everything has to be fast. And the fast I give it to you, you think that's the better it is. Fast cars, fast women, fast money, fast food. And all them things don't last. Anything fast don't last. The thing about it is when you slow grow, naturally grow your food, organically grow your food, no, it's not going to be one of those massive squash that's over there in the contest for the giant squash award overnight. That's going to take some time. And my people are those kind of folk. Southern hospitality is key. But one of the things that we like is manners. And we like folks to just, as we say, tarry a little while with one another. Sit down and relax and be able to look in each other's eyes and see who it is that you're there with and who you're around. That's why you can come to any sea island and we can tell you where somebody's family lives and what that family has done. Whether they are the really agricultural families, or they're the ones who still hold on to our sea working traditions, or they're the quilters, or they're the cast net makers, or they're the best ones to go to if I don't want something down on the thing like that, if a truck, I don't want one that good, okay, I like to run this, that, I don't want to go to. We can tell you whether they can cook some good food or not. So, here it is that today, people don't even want the kind of food that you cook traditionally from that food that you harvest out in the field and that you go and you catch from the creek, because that takes time. And you will have to sit there for a little while shelling them peas. It ain't no string, because I'm expecting them to do this and that. It ain't no string on the outside of your peas that you just pull off and the peas drop out from. They probably trying to design one with a zipper on as we sit here today. All right? And here it is that you go out there, you catch the fish. No, the fish don't just come back clean. You got to actually stand there for a while and scrape the thing off and open him up and take the head and do this and do that, and we waste nothing. So the parts we are not going to eat, we have animals that they go to. The things that we take off, the little husks as we call them, on the outside shell, you put that out there. I know y'all folks on this side of the world might use it for composting. We just learned that word the other day when all of y'all went organic. Nobody in Gullah Geechee knew what is organic. I said organic is the same thing y'all been using all your life, going in the chicken coop and carrying on and getting stuff. Oh, that was like people being gagged. They are shocked that people have to keep coming up with categories and entire conferences to talk about things that before we were told we were backward and ignorant for doing. And that as Southern folk, we just moved too slow. But now everybody else in the world realizes they need to join us and slow down. Because then we might be able to see how we all are contributing to what's happening on the earth. And we could decide what seeds we're going to plant together. Because I don't think any of us, everybody in the room raised their hand and said you grew something at some point. I don't think you just took a handful of whatever and said, hey, these some seeds, I'm going to fling them out here. Just to do it. You had something in mind, something that moved your spirit, that you said, I want to see. If I plant it here, will it come up? Whether it was in a pot, I didn't say whether it was pot. I said whether it was in a pot, because I know what state I'm in. Okay. Whether it was in a pot, whether it was in a garden, like I said, a plot this size. These community gardens y'all have. We find it amazing how excited y'all get over something growing in this much space. While we got this much acreage that we got to look out from the front porch and say, all right, which row we doing today? Because see, in the 16, the 17, the 1800s, you had 100, 200 people working 10, 20, 30, 40 acres together. Now Gullah Geechees became the owners of those self-same plantations during the U.S. Civil War in 1862 up to today. We own those sizes of parcels of property, 10, 20, 40 acres. And now your families are not, of course, 100 people that's going to go in the field. I didn't say your family don't consist of 100 people, because I'm kin to more than 100 people on St. Helena Island by myself. But that don't mean all them jokers know how to go in the field, nor that you want them out there. Because we have a firm belief, again, about energy and energy transfer. And that's why I'm saying to you, watch what you speak. Also watch what you touch. And if that is not your spirit calling, if you touch it, it will not live. Somebody else touches it, and it can survive and thrive. So certain people, they come to your house, oh, I see y'all got mangoes up. Brother, can I get some? Hold it, we'll get them for you. Go and sit down. And we go and pick it, give it to them. And then as the other folk come, hell, I sure want some mangoes. You see what it feel like, go and get them. Because you know the energy. But you can only start to feel and then determine where an energy is going, how it's going to move when you focus. And again, if your mind starts getting cloudy, it starts spinning out of control as if it is one of those models that they have on the Weather Channel, then again, I say, breathe. And do it as many times as you need to until things level off. Until you can see clear what it is that you're here for. What is your purpose? What is the seed that God put in you to plant in the souls of everyone you come in contact with on this journey you call life? What is it that you will leave as a legacy for the next generation? What is it that you will realize and recognize is the thing that's going to grow long after you have been planted in the soil itself? Didn't think about that, did you? Now, when I said you yourself are a seed, That compost you love so well, you will one day help. Truly with it. But at that point, everything that was the knowledge you had, was the wisdom you had, was the understanding that you had, that had been somehow placed inside your mind, somehow had been something that maybe you wrote, or you blogged, or you tweeted, or you shared, will only be left in some electronic form or physical form if you write it for the next generation. But then what if they can't comprehend it? They can't come to you anymore. I said, what did you mean? And unfortunately, when we move further and further away from the land, and we move further and further away from traditions, we get to the point where people are doing things with no understanding. And my favorite proverb is wisdom is the principal thing. All right? So get wisdom. But in all thy getting, get understanding. So if you just out here rummaging through these, touching them because you saw somebody else touch them, pouring water in here and don't realize it already been watered. You don't understand what it takes for things to grow. If you think that when you have a field big as this space we're in, and you do cast seeds out, that that's all you do, and you walk away, and 2 days later you come back and harvest, you don't have an understanding. If you think that they're going to grow just as nice and as pretty and all cute, like how they have them laid out for us here at this event, without any weeds also growing in there, and I didn't say weeds. I remember where I'm at once again. Don't get happy. All right. Here it is. Do you think that? If you do, you don't have an understanding. So many people start out saying they want to be the farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell. Hi-ho to Mario, the farmer in the dell. That's a wonderful life. I can just get me some land and have my own farm or grow me my little garden. And I can just wear one of these aprons, and I can get up when I want, and I can go to bed when I want. Oh, I'm retired now, this is what I'm going to do. You planted all those seeds. The little packet on the back said, use all these things. You did that. You watered it, and the sun came, you did, and now it's 4 weeks later. It said in 4 weeks, I should be eating that stuff. And ain't nothing but the same lawn grass that's across the front yard in your little box. Your feelings get hurt. You start thinking this ain't for me then. Or you plant it and something come up, but you bring the little packet out again. Say, this don't look like the picture. I was supposed to have daffodils. This don't quite look like what I got. Because it's not. So here it is. That the same way you have to take some time and figure out what's going to grow, there are other things that will grow without your help. And weeds do that. Not only physically in the field, but can be in your spirit if you allow the weed bringers to plant those seeds in your soul. And that's why sometimes people might say, oh, wow, the person's rude, or oh, no, the person, because you can already feel their energy and discern they're about to say something negative. So you say, no, I can't hear you right now. I'm not hearing you. And you go somewhere else and you sit. And those people are so aggressive, they try to follow you. But that's what you breathe and remove yourself from that space the same way you have to pluck weeds up out of the ground if you intend to have a viable harvest. So it's always about the seeds we plant. But nowadays we cannot get to that point of knowing energies and checking to see whether it's a weed or a plant we want growing because we're so layered in things and And if somebody said, well, you know, why are you wearing that old smock? Because nobody don't wear no smock no more. So you go out there in jeans and a t-shirt. Why? Because that's the latest hashtag. That's the trend. That everybody who grows organic got to wear flip-flops, jeans, or short pants and a t-shirt to grow their clothes. And you say, well, I don't need this no more. Well, traditionally, do you know why they had it on? And then they just stand there. Yeah. Because see, in my community, you don't know who comes into the house and you don't know what else you got to do next. You always got an apron. You got an apron for cleaning fish. You got an apron for cooking your biscuit. You got all those. You keep them clean. They also keep your good clothes clean. You don't wear your good church clothes out in the field. You got field clothes. If you going to deal with the cow, you got some big overalls like my boy John. You go deal with that. But when I go to now plant greens, I don't necessarily got to wear my bib overalls. I could, but when it's time to go to Praise House, I sure ain't have my bib overalls on, all right? And my head ain't gonna be tied with the rag that I use to cover my hair from the dust and the dirt that when I'm out in the field, and to protect you from the sunlight that's beaming down on you, that would drain your energy before you know it. So that laying down, sleeping till whenever, because you done retired and you got the land and you think you can grow something in your little garden, that don't work too well either. You find out when at 6 in the morning, it's already 75 degrees. And you want to wake up at noon when it's 101. So let's just see how long you going to plant, pull weeds, or harvest, or anything. One season, and as we say, one and done. You're going to say, I think I'm a little too old for this. No, you just don't understand that there were traditions for a reason. There are people who live on the land that can teach you the traditions if you were willing to not say something, but give them a chance so that you can feel their energy first and then listen to what they came to share. I appreciate everyone who is praying, who has prayed, who wanted to just say to me, I see what's happening, and we're pleased that you are safe away from your home. But that's not totally true, because as long as any Gullah Geechee is in the eye of the storm, I am in the eye of the storm. I'm not safe because I'm one place and millions of the rest of my people are where they are, because I'm the chiefess and head of state for the Gullah Geechee Nation. I was elected by my people to speak on their behalf around the world. So in the midst of being here, I am still there. My spirit is still there. When I got in here, it was after midnight your time, so 3 a.m. my time, and I was still online getting reports from various agencies to let me know, Queen Quet, these are the things to keep your people safe. These are the things that you let them know. These are the routes that they're going to need to take if they leave. But most of my people told me before I left, Queen, you travel safely. I said, y'all should be safe here. They said, yeah, because we ain't going nowhere. You know we just sit right here, like we ancestors would do. That millions of people largely on the highway are not us, but they are the people who come in to displace us and that want to strip off the layers of our traditions, that have made it illegal in gated areas throughout our coast for any agriculture to be there, until they get a gardening club together and then they want to make community gardens themselves. They've made it illegal for native Gullah Geechees to have their own goats and things that they had before those places became gated. And people have been taken to court. They've taken people to court and reported them to the Department of Health and Environmental Control for having their march tactics in the traditional way that they always did. They want to strip every layer of our tradition from the coastline and have it look just as bland as this tablecloth did until I put our flag on. But we'd have been there, and we're in the Guayna with Talta. As you'll see, the Gullah Geechee Nation flag says, "We be Gullah Geechee anointed people." In the center of it, you see a tree. It is actually an African family tree. It is human bodies intertwined together, representing all of my ancestral groups that I mentioned to you a while ago. Because our roots go into the soil of those sea islands. We cannot be pulled from the land, nor can we be pulled apart from each other. You'll see that the blue represents the water, because we know the water to bring we the water, go and take we back. The blue also represents one of those 3 cash crops, indigo. And here it is that we have the gold because of that other cash crop, Carolina gold, but also because we were the black gold and we put the gold and the richness into this soil. Because our labor, our knowledge, our understanding, our wisdom was exploited, still is being done. So that's why we stood for our human rights, and my people elected me. I'm in my third term as the head of state for the Gullah Geechee Nation. A 1-year election from 1999 to 2000 was done, and we then declared ourselves as a nation. So we have dual citizenship in the United States and in the Gullah Geechee Nation. And so how do we do that? Because we have land. We've had that land all these years. We worked it before 1862. We just legally got deeds, most of our families, during the Civil War, then after Reconstruction, and some still trying to get their land back because they've been displaced from it. That green represents the land. But that gold on there is also for the sun and the brighter day. No matter what comes, there's always going to be a brightness that comes afterwards. So even when them stormy people that don't have them good viable seeds come, let them go by their business, because in a little while the area will get real bright and clear once they move out of your space. I guarantee you that. We all make up patterns in the world. But once we put those patterns together, oh, what a beautiful thing we can make that can adorn us, that can protect us, that we can celebrate together with. And when we work the farm, as I say, I not only would wear a skirt, I'd have on jeans, a skirt with an apron for utilitarian purposes. Because you gather your harvest in the apron and tie the apron up around your waist. You gather more harvest in the skirt, you lift it and you tie it. Then you fill up the bushel basket, put it on top of your head and think like this, and loan them over y'all, and think like that into the truck. And when we say we work in the field, we work for ourselves. When we say we work for the farm or going to the farm or working on the farm, we're working for somebody else who's a commercial farmer. And when I used to do that, they paid us 10 cents per bushel for tomatoes, for harvesting green tomatoes. 10 cents per bushel. And when we had to walk it, we walked it the length of this room to the truck to hand it up, to get a ticket worth 10 cents to go back to work. Hence, that's why I learned the traditions from my mama real quick. When I started going out there with my cousin to get a little extra summer money, I said, hold it, this is a lot. I said, yeah, I can carry 2 bushels, one on my head and one on the arm, but that's strange. She said, let me show you what you do. She said, instead of following them wearing them jeans, go and put the skirt on. I said, yeah, I started. He said, yeah, put the skirt over there, put the apron on that, and look at how much you could carry. So that's why today I started off with an apron and a skirt. I ain't got no jeans. I ain't gonna lift it, but y'all know what else is under there. But y'all do know I'm carrying my traditions from that coast to this coast, praying that we are here together to plant seeds that are going to be positive, that are going to be viable, that are going to be here for someone else to find as an heirloom, that they're going to treasure, that next generation, that some of them are in here now, one sitting over there in a stroller, I wish somebody could push me around when it get hot later on like that, all right, are going to be here to then take those things and plant them in the souls of the next people. That in the future, when the opening day of this happens, they have to turn people away because they can say, ain't no more space in there. See, if we were having something for something else that ain't as viable, you have to do that now. But what happens is sometimes a slow process, but that don't mean ain't nothing wrong. You just got to go on, breathe, carry the one, and take your time. So yeah, we ain't doing as we say, driving on sword and things like that. There's always a reason for everything that I do. And I'm so happy that you all found a reason to be here at this National Heirloom Expo. I'm so happy that they asked me to be one of the speakers, and I was honored when I got the actual schedule, and I was the centerpiece of the photos. So I did catch some of y'all. Don't think I didn't notice because I walked swiftly by you, but I did see people outside go and tap their friend. I did see that. So I'm glad the picture is that good that you recognize it. And I'm here live, but I also know we have to make our way down to the next panel. But if anyone's interested in making a donation, a contribution, and purchasing one of the books, I'm going to come right off stage and come right over there. And my motto and slogan that is going around the world and has been misquoted as a Gullah Geechee proverb when it was something the Spirit gave to me, and I started saying as a slogan of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition is, "Hunter must take care of the root, but heal the tree." And so I pray that today I've given you not only some tools, but some seeds to get to digging and planting some positivity in the soil wherever you may rain from. And let us rain more positivity on it so that more good fruit grows and less weeds in the world. God bless you all. Stay strong.